this without helping. All right, I have started the recording for today's lesson, Tuesday, May 12th. And we are going to move on to reading Henry V. First, I am going to remind everybody once again to please get into the one-on-one conferencing schedule and start signing up again. This is really important. I also really, truly want to encourage you, if you haven't as of yet, get onto the parent, teacher, student interviews and sign yourself and your parents up. I've got 6 more slots available today. No, 5. And tomorrow. You can sign up as a parent, teacher, student interview in any one of my open blocks, like today at 1 to 1:30. But these days, tonight and tomorrow, are specifically for the opportunity for parents to meet with me. So please get in, and I better shut my Facebook off, and sign up. Also, sign up for conferencing. Now, we'll get into classwork, and you might want to notice that I have rearranged our folders. The topic for Shakespeare, I've decided to give it its own topic, Offsite Learning Shakespeare. And I've put all 4 items that we've done so far for Shakespeare: constructing meaning and building background information, Shakespeare Uncovered, and now today's assignment, Henry V, Act 1. The Offsite Learning has all of our poetry and short story work in it. So, scene questions, anywhere from 1 to 4 items, are composed before the scene, just like I did with our background information. And then I did a page break, and then the scene follows. I like putting the questions first because they provide you with a focus. They provide you with a reading focus. You may respond in point form, but be sure to be thorough. Also, when I ask you to provide direct quotes, use them and cite the line numbers. That's important because you may ultimately choose to use these quotes, 1 or 2 of these quotes, in your essay when you write it. And if you have the quote with the line number already down, then you don't have to go searching for it in the textbook. I have not provided any footnotes in the text for Act 1, simply because my textbook, Henry V, is at school. I don't think anybody anticipated this to be as long as it is. Hello, Mr. Hagan. And so I will be doing the footnotes as an after thing. I'm going to go to school this morning. I'm going to pick up my textbook. I'm going to bring it back, and I'm going to input the footnotes. But you do have access to these through your playbook, and Sparks No Fear Shakespeare offers line-by-line paraphrasing of the scene. It's useful in helping you understand what's being said, but it's not as valuable as footnotes, because footnotes will hone in on very specific archaic words and figurative language. So my apologies for no footnotes as we do the initial read, but they will be put in after the fact, and once I get my textbook, they will be in every act after that. So, what did I do? I used, and I should identify this somewhere on here, I took the scenes, all scenes were retrieved from Sparks Notes No Fear Shakespeare. So I just copied and pasted the scene onto into this document. So the entire act is in this document with the questions prior to each scene. So you've got your prologue, there it is, followed by scene 2 with 2 questions, and then there's scene 2, followed by scene 1. This is scene 1. Did I say scene 2? Yeah, this is scene 1 with its questions, followed by scene 2 with its 4 questions. And it's a fairly lengthy scene, but everything that happens, and then there is the act review. So there are 7 questions and a newspaper article assignment. So we'll go back to the top and look at our prologue. One of the ways Shakespeare dealt with the issue of being able to write a piece that had so many varying setting locations and so much physical action was to create the prologue, which would then address the audience before every act and create the image for the audience to put into their mind so that they could then perceive and use their imaginations in order to understand or visualize the play. And so that's the basis of your question for the prologue. Read through the prologue and find at least 3 pieces of evidence to support the idea that the chorus desires the audience to use their imagination. Because without it, it would be, as far as Shakespeare and the audience are concerned, impossible to create the depth of action that occurs in this play. So, I will read through the chorus and then hear your thoughts on it in terms of the cry for imagination. And so just to make that, I'll just add that question to our chat line. Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention, a kingdom for a stage, princes to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene. Then should the warlike Harry himself assume the port of Mars, and at his heels, leashed in like hounds, should famine, sword, and fire crouch for employment. But pardon, gentles all, the flat, unraised spirits that hath dared on this unworthy scaffold to bring forth so great an object. Can this cockpit hold the vasty fields of France? Or may we cram within this wooden O the very casques that did affright the heir of Agincourt? Oh, pardon, since a crooked figure may attest in little place 1,000,000, and let us ciphers to this great account on your imaginary forces work. Suppose within the girdle of these walls are now confined 2 mighty monarchies, whose high upreared and abutting fronts the perilous narrow oceans part asunder. Piece out our imperfections with your thoughts, into 1,000 parts divide one man, and make imaginary pursuance. Think, when we talk of horses, that you see them printing their proud hooves in the receiving earth, for 'tis your thoughts that now must deck our kings, carry them here and there, jumping o'er times, turning the accomplishment of many years into an hourglass, for which supply admit me course to the history, who prologue like your humble patience pray, gladly to hear, kindly to judge our play. So, scroll through this prologue and find for me at least 3 pieces of evidence that support this idea. while you guys are doing that, I'm going to fix this so that it is like the rest of the piece out our imperfections with your thoughts. Excellent. Excellent. Can you say what those imperfections are, Mr. Andonoff? Locations. Yes. What else? Anyone? Figure out what else? I'll give you guys some hints. Okay, but that's not in the prologue. Although one could consider these lines. Oops, let me go undo, undo, undo. So I think I'm going to have to accept that. Very good, Mr. Andonoff. All right, so now let's look for another line. So I'm going to pick on Mr. Croak this time. Mr. Croak, find another line in the prologue that asks us to use our imagination without the word imagination in it. That way it's easy to look for the word imagination, but let's look at it and see where he's actually making that request without using the word imagination. Think when we talk of horses. Excellent that you see them printing the proud who's in the receiving earth. Excellent. Very good. Because of course it's not conceivable on the physical stage to produce the horses, or at least that many of them. You may at one point have, oh, I don't know, King Henry ride on stage and give a speech from atop his horseback. But you wouldn't want more than one horse, and then you'd have to make do with the idea that the horse is likely to defecate, and thus you have that issue. And now, Mr. Hagen, I turn to you. It is your turn. Ideally without the word imagination in it. Piece out your imperfections with our thoughts. We didn't use that one. Yes, we did. Mr. Antonov used that line. I'll give you a hint. Look between these lines. Actually, look between these lines. And of course, we already have, so you can't use this because we've already chosen it. So somewhere in here, there are at least two good examples. I'll read them for you and listen. Oh, pardon, since a crooked figure may attest in little place a million, and let us ciphers to this great account on your imaginary forces work. Suppose within the girdle of these walls are now confined two mighty monarchies, whose high upreared and abutting fronts the perilous narrow ocean parts asunder. Piece out our imperfections with your thoughts, and into 1,000 parts divide one man. And make imaginary pursuance. Think when we talk of horses that you see them printing their proud hoofs in the receiving earth. We've got that line too, so you can't reuse it. For 'tis your thoughts that now must deck our kings, carrying them here and there, jumping o'er times. Mr. Croak or Mr. Antonov, can you help him out? Where in here is there another line? At least two lines combined together. And let us ciphers to this great attest in little place a million. Okay, so where you have attest a little place a million, where's that one? And let us ciphers to this great account on your imaginary forces work. A crooked figure may attest in little place a million. So you need the full sentence. So this needs to be the full concept. So if you're going to go with the ciphers one, you need to continue it. Now that has the word imagination in it, so it's more straightforward, but it is good. He's talking about us, the ciphers, the writers of this account. Let us work on your imagination. And then the other one you chose was a crooked figure may, in the beginning of that, in which this one is, he is referring to himself as the crooked figure, and attest in little place a million. I am about to describe for you in a million people, or a million actions, or a million locations, so it's hyperbole in that sense, of in this little environment. Now, another one that you could use was, this is a good one. For 'tis your thoughts that now must deck our kings, carry them here and there, jumping o'er times, asking the audience to give their thoughts, take their thoughts and use that to deck the kings in their attire and carry them from England to France and whatever other elements that exist. So well done, gentlemen. We're going to move on now to scene 1. I should have titled this yeah, I did. Scene 1. And in scene 1, there are 2 questions. Question 1 is, so I will put the 2 questions for the scene in there. And this would then be question number 2. This would be question number 1. Of course, we will only concentrate on one question at a time, so I think I'm going to edit question number 2 out. So, identify the lines where Canterbury and Eli speak of the king's youth and how the young man has changed. So, this is one of the reasons why I had you learn about the history, learn about what happened in Henry IV's part 1 and 2, because his reputation follows him. Now, this is the church, which is the church, Canterbury and Ely, the church in essence. Why does the church, through Canterbury and Ely, want to incite the young king to go to war with France? So they have their own reasons, and then they have the reason that they give the young king as well. So first we look at them talking about his youth, then we look at why they want him to go to war, their private reasons versus the reasons they give the king. Scene 1. Enter the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Bishop of Ely. My lord, I'll tell you that self-bill is urged, which in the 11th year of the last king's reign was like, and has indeed against us passed, but that the scrambling of unquiet time did push it out of farther question. But how, my lord, shall we resist it now? It must be thought on. If passed against us, we lose the better half of our possession, for all the temporal lands which devout men by testament have given to the church would they strip from us, being valued thus. As much would maintain to the king's honor full 15 earls and 1,500 knights, 6,200 good esquires, and to relief of Lazars a weak age, of indignant faint souls past corporal toil, 100 almshouses right well supplied, and to the coffers of the king besides 1,000 pounds by the year. Thus runs the bill. This would drink deep, to drink the cup and all. But what prevention? The king is full of grace and fair regard, and a true lover of the Holy Church. The courses of his youth promised it not. Okay, we're going to stop here. We're going to go back up here, because the reason they really truly are approaching the king is in here. It's something that they fear. Oh, wait a minute. That's number 2. Never mind. My apologies. We'll have to scroll up to number 2 afterwards. I didn't do our questions in proper chronological order. Here is number 1. The course of his youth promised it not. The breath no sooner left his father's body, but that his wildness mortified him. Seemed to die, too. Yea, at that very moment, consideration like an angel came and whipped the offending Adam out of him, leaving his body as a paradise to envelop and contain celestial spirits. Never was such a sudden scholar made, never came reformation in a flood with such a heady current scouring faults, nor never hydra headed wilfulness so soon did lose his seat, and all at once as in this king. I'm going to bold. We are blessed in this change. Hear him but reason in divinity, and all admiring with an inward wish, you would desire the king were made a prelate. Hear him debate of commonwealth affairs, and you would say it hath been all in all his study. List his discourse of war, and you shall hear a fearful battle rendered you in music. Turn him to a cause of policy, the Gordian knot of it he will unloose, familiar as his garter, that when he speaks, the chartered libertine is still. And the mute wonder lurketh in men's ears, to steal his sweet and honeyed sentences. So the art and practice part of life must be the mistress to this theoric. Which is a wonder how his grace should glean it, since his addition was to coarse veins. His companies unlettered, rude, and shallow, his hours filled up with riots, banquets, sports, and never noted in him any study, any retirement, any sequestration from open haunts and popularity. The strawberry grows underneath the nettle, and wholesome berries thrive and ripen best, neighbored by fruit of baser quality. And so the prince obscured his contemplation under the veil of wildness, which no doubt grew like summer grass, fastest by night, unseen, yet crevice in his faculty. I should have added a question that asked you how his premonition came to light, where he said that when my reformation comes, I will shine over everything. I'll just throw that into a comment. And this, of course, is a description of that. It must be so, for miracles are ceased, and therefore we must needs admit the means how things are perfected. But, my good lord, how now for the mitigation of this bill urged by the Commons? Does his Majesty incline to it or no? He seems indifferent. So this is their real concern. This bill, which is described for us at the beginning. this bill. So this is where are we? Sorry. He seems indifferent, or rather swaying more upon our part than cherishing the exhibitors against it. For I have made an offer to his majesty upon our spiritual convocation, and in regard of causes now in hand, which I have opened to his grace at large, as touching France, to give a greater sum than ever at one time the clergy yet did to his predecessors part withal. So this is his offer made to his majesty concerning, as touching France. How did this offer seem received, my lord? With good acceptance of his majesty, save that there was not time enough to hear, as I perceived his grace would fain have done. Go, this 90, sorry, as fate grace would fain have done, the severals and unhidden passages of his true titles to some certain dukedoms, and generally to the crown and seat of France, derived from Edward, his greater grandfather. What was the impediment that broke this off? The French ambassador upon that instant craved audience, and the hour, I think, is come to give him hearing. It is 4 o'clock. It is. Then we go in to know his embassy, which I could, with ready guess, declare before the Frenchmen speak a word of it. I'll wait upon you and long to hear it. So, go back to the questions to make sure that they make sense. Where they speak of his youth, and we don't need to know what the reasons are that he gives the young king, because that doesn't come up in this scene. We have to get that in the next scene. So hopefully that last question was deleted on your document. If not, do so yourself. There we go. Excellent, Mr. That is indeed a good example. His wilderness mortified him. So, his youth and how he changed. So let's go into that and see what else. So we're basically looking at lines 25 through to lines 68. So review over lines 25 to 68. And you got one here. That's his change. Consideration came like an angel. So you got these 3 lines already. What other lines tell us either that he changed? Let's start with his past. Let's begin first finding lines that describe his feckless youth. Because this one has both. His wildness mortified him, but it also has, more importantly, it's more heavily couched in how he changed. So let's look at lines that indicate just the phrases. Don't go for full lines. Find me phrases. And the example from the example from Mr. Andonov would be his wildness. I'm going to get rid of the bold on that because that one, and I'm going to get rid of the underline. So let's just look first of all with this passage, 25 to 38. Never was such a sudden scholar made. Okay, that indicates his change in character. Start with his youth, what he was like. What was he like? Let me pull this over here a bit. Okay, so wild. There's at least 1, 2 more phrases in here. 2 more phrases in lines 25 to 38. 2 more phrases. Originally I had them bolded out, but I took the bold out because now I don't want to be too obvious. Anyone get, there's a biblical allusion that describes him in his youth. Can anyone figure out the biblical allusion? Offending Adam. Very good, Mr. Hagen. And there's one more, and it is a mythological allusion. Next. Can anyone find that one? The mythical creature. And this particular creature, you cut off one head and another will grow, and 2 more will grow, so it becomes worse and worse and worse as time passes. The Hydra. Very good, Mr. Andonov. Okay, now this one is all about, okay, I bolded it out. If you miss it, then I'm very sad. The next one, of course, is chartered libertine. I noticed that what we've not been doing, myself as well, identifying line numbers. Make sure you do that in your assignment because you may want to use these in your essay. Now, line 55, I bolded everything. But I would like you to find me very specific lines in here. Let me unbold it so that you don't feel like you have to have the entire thing because I don't want you using the entire thing. I'm just going to put a comment here. This is a lovely metaphor. So we're in here. We're in all of this. Can you find for me specific examples of his youth? Okay, so let's edit it down to 55 to 61. His company's unlettered, rude, and shallow. His hours filled up with riots, banquets, sports. Excellent, Mr. Andonov. Well done. That's probably your best one. You actually found what would be considered the gold nugget direct quote. This has been one of my favorite metaphors that I use because you're asked to be judicious in your choices. And this was a very judicious choice. Alrighty, so that gives us question 1, which is the lines where Canterbury and Ellie speak of his youth in terms of his bad behavior. And now let's look at how they note his change. Canter, I always forget the R in Canterbury. So now let's go back and look for his change. I really should have put these questions in opposite order. It makes more sense because questions should follow chronologically if you're going to answer. There we go. So let's look at how he's changed. Scrolling back, how has he changed? Mr. Hagen or someone gave us one example already. This indicates, never was such a sudden scholar made. Here we go. There's one example. So we're going to copy and paste that so that we don't have to repeat ourselves. And was there another one that we took one quote out of something that was couched inside. Here we go. I was good, but more so towards the change. Here, wildness was his youth, but it died So this is what we're looking for, the change in his character. Okay, so we've got from 25 to 35. Let's look at his change of character in lines 40 to well, let's not give ourselves too much to work through. Lines 40 to 44. I just want to get rid of all of the bolds and the underlines so that you can read through it. Hear him but reason in divinity, and all admiring with an inward wish you would desire the king were made a prelate. Hear him debate his commonwealth affairs, you would say it hath been all in all his study. List his discourse of war, and you shall hear a fearful battle rendered you in music. Turn him to any cause of policy, the Gordian knot of it he will unloose, familiar as his garter, that when he speaks, the air, a chartered libertine, is still. The air, a chartered libertine, is still, and the mute wonder lurketh in men's ears, to steal his sweet and honeyed sentence, so that the art and practice of life must be the mistress to this theory. Which is a wonder how his grace should glean it, since his addition was to coarse veins, his company's unlettered rude, etc. So, they're noting of his change. How has he changed? You may not be able to use necessarily full direct quotes, but let's look at it this way. 1, 2, in 3. At least 3, they mention 3 key areas in which the king has shown great improvement. Can you tell me what these are? What are the 3 key ways in which the young man has shown improvement? He astonishes people with his knowledge of these 3 areas. What are these 3 subjects? Politics. Excellent. That's one of them. Where is it? Commonwealth affairs. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, Commonwealth affairs and policy. So specifically, this is politics. And this is politics. Thank you.
Just a little room there, but you probably have a hard time backing up.
Oh, I would definitely have a hard time backing up. I appreciate that, Simon. Now there are 2 other areas of study. What are the 2 other areas of study? Hear him but reason in divinity, and all admiring with an inward wish you would desire the king were made a prelate. Hear him debate of commonwealth affairs, politics, you would say that it hath been all in all his study. List his discourse of war, and you shall hear a fearful battle rendered you in music. turn him to any cause of politics. So the other two are in these lines 40 to 46. What are these two other areas of study? He absolutely amazes the audience with them. Hear him but reason in divinity. I'm going to give you a word definition. Prelate, a clergyman. So what does that mean? Lines 40 to 42. What are they? What is it? Your words that divinity and prelate are your hints. Let me go to my dictionary.com. Make sure I get a proper definition. Deity, godhood. We'll go with these two definitions. I'm going to copy these two definitions and stick them in here for divinity. That's all right. That happens. So, knowing that divinity means deity, godhood, a divine being, God. Knowing that prelate means clergyman. I just want to make sure that I gave you the proper definition for prelate. What is the study? Yeah, so there you go. Not just any ordinary churchman either. An ecclesiastic of a high order. So come on guys, what is this study? His study of divinity. What is his study? Godhood, a divine being. You wish you were a prelate, a clergyman. What is his study? Starts with a C. Religion, the church, yes. Excellent. And now the last study is found in lines 45 to 46. Please identify it. List his discourse of war, and you shall hear a fearful battle rendered you in music. Even if you don't know what the word list is, which of course is Shakespeare shortening the word of listen. You listen to him discourse. Let's just do a communicate by thoughts or words, a formal discussion, which is his formal discussion of a subject, and in his case, speech. You could also write on it, I guess, but here we're looking at to hear him discuss formally the topic of. List his discourse of war, and you shall hear a fearful battle rendered you in music. What is the last subject that they mention? No. Music is the topic is rendered. You in music. The topic is so eloquently stated, it is like music. What is the topic, though? What is the topic the young king speaks of so eloquently? List his discourse of war, and you shall hear a fearful battle rendered you in music. The topic of language? Nope. No, as the young king uses language to discuss this topic. What's the topic? I was very kind and I bolded it out. Listen to his discussion of war, and you will hear him describe a most horrifying battle and make it sound like a beautiful song. So, what's the topic? Mr. Croak, I haven't heard from you for a while. Go back to lines 45 and 46. What is the topic that he speaks about? So we got religion from divinity and prelate. We got politics from Commonwealth affairs and policy. What are we going to get from here? I thought this was the easiest one, to be honest with you guys. War. Battle strategies. All right. Let's go up, and now we're going to move on to what is now. Now this is question 1, which I originally had stated as question 2. Why do they want to incite the young king to go to war with France? So that takes us to here. So they want him to go to war because it will take his mind off of something. Oh, they're hoping, not what are they hoping? Well, yeah, we know what they are hoping for. They're going to send him for battle, so that's not the best. Ignore the previous question. What is this bill that they fear will be passed? So, my lord, I'll tell you that self-bill is urged, which in the 11th year of the last king's reign was like, and had indeed against us passed, but that the scrambling and unquiet time did push it farther out of question. My lord, but how, my lord, shall we resist it now? It must be thought on. If it passes against us, we lose the better half of our possession, for all the temporal lands which men devout by testament have given to the church, would they strip from us, being valued thus, as much as would maintain to the king's honor full 15 earls and 1,500 knights, 6,200 good esquires, and to the relief of lazars and weak age, of indignant faint souls past corporate toil, 100 almshouses right well supplied, and to the coffers of the kings besides, 1,000 pounds runs the bill. So, in your own words, what will happen if this bill is passed? What will the king get, and what will the church lose? So this is the best one, right in here. So we're looking, the church will lose land. Yes. What else? So we got our land. Line 7 to line 19. So we got lands in line 9. What's in lines 13 and 14? "1,500 nights." Yes. That's line 13. What about line 14? What are esquires, you might ask? Oops. Esquire. The rank of esquire. A man belonging to the order of the English gentry. Commoners. Apply to a commoner, considered to gain social position of a gentleman. There must be an old English of it. Men raised to a, okay, so the gentry. Good, excellent. Excellent, Mr. Andanov. So we want our comment. And what else? What are almshouses? Because they get that too. Chiefly British. Coffers. So whenever you don't know a word, you do like I do. The chooch also loses 1,000 pounds. Very good. Treasury funds. Excellent. So this is why they desperately need the prince to be concentrating his energies elsewhere. I just want to check this with Grammarly to make sure I don't, I'm really bad with commas. And it's always helpful. So if you haven't convinced your mom or dad to fork out the $150 for a year, tell them how important this is, because this is going to very much aid you when you get to university, when everything you write, well, not everything, probably 50% or 60% of all your writing will be done outside of the classroom, and the expectation of good grammar. Looks like that is accurate, so I don't have to worry. I'll go back here, find my comment for coffers. No, what was the word I was doing? Coffers, treasury of funds. Oh, this is the one I was checking. Sorry. All right. So, what's the other half of that question? I think we might have answered all the questions. Why are they trying to incite him to go to war with France? And at one point, here he talks about the offer of France. He also suggests, I've opened to his grace at large as touching France to give a greater sum than ever at any one time the clergy yet did to his predecessors part withal. In these lines, Canterbury is suggesting, Canterbury has suggested to the young king that his to regain the throne of France, because it's not to steal the throne of France. He's saying that you're not usurping the king, you are retaking what is yours. Will bring more money to the throne than this bill could ever offer. Alrighty. Well, guys, I didn't know if we'd get through the whole act, and I was correct, we did not. So we will do scene 2 tomorrow, which means that I'm going to, and there are 4 questions for the scene tomorrow. Read it in advance tonight, do yourself that favor, but first, do your responses for the prologue and scene 1. And we've got all of our notes that we've taken together. And then I'm thinking that this newspaper will become a project. And each act you choose one. So don't begin the work on the newspaper until I have revised newspaper response. It's going to be a whole play, I believe. Act 1 review, newspaper response, choose one of the following. To include in your newspaper review of the play. So I will have 4 options for you. Right now I only have 3. I'll come up with 2 more for what I can find in, job opportunities, personal ads, etc. So, a review of the act, choosing one of these 5, and then you have to edit it. You can't use it again. Alrighty, guys. I am going to say goodbye. I'm going to stop recording, and I will see you tomorrow morning.